John Miller wiped sweat from his forehead as the hot Jordan sun beat down on him. The dig site had been active for 3 weeks, but they had found nothing special, just broken pottery and some old coins. Nothing that would make headlines or save his career. "Professor Miller, I think you should see this," called Sam, one of his students. John walked over, trying not to look too hopeful. So many times before, an exciting find turned out to be nothing important. Sam pointed to something shiny sticking out from the dry earth. "I was clearing this area and saw it reflect the sunlight." John knelt down and carefully brushed away the sand. His heart beat faster as more of the object became visible. It was made of metal with a curved shape. Using his small brush, he gently revealed what looked like an ancient oil lamp. "Hand me the water, please," John said. Sam passed him a bottle, and John sprinkled a little water on the area around the lamp to make the soil easier to work with. After 30 minutes of careful digging, John lifted the lamp from its resting place. It was beautiful, made of brass with faded silver designs etched into its surface. It had a curved handle and a long spout. The lamp was small enough to fit in his hands but felt strangely heavy. "This is at least 500 years old," John said, examining the lamp closely. "Maybe older. Look at these markings." Sam leaned in. "Are those words?" "Yes, some kind of ancient script." John carefully turned the lamp over. "We'll need to document this properly and then get it to the lab." That night in his tent, John couldn't sleep. The lamp sat on his small desk, cleaned of most dirt but still waiting for proper cleaning at the university. Something about it seemed different from other artifacts he had found. It almost seemed to glow slightly in the darkness, but John told himself it was just moonlight reflecting off the metal. 3 weeks later, John was back in his small apartment in Boston. The university had let him keep the lamp temporarily for further study since no one else seemed very interested in it. His colleagues were more excited about some ancient scrolls found at another dig site. John sat at his kitchen table with the lamp in front of him. His apartment was messy, with books piled on every surface and dirty dishes in the sink. On the wall hung a framed photo of him with a woman, his ex-wife Karen. They had divorced 2 years ago when she got tired of being married to someone who cared more about old objects than their relationship. He sighed and picked up the lamp. He had translated some of the markings, which told a strange story about wishes and power. Most likely just old superstitions, but fascinating nonetheless. As John rubbed at a stubborn spot on the lamp with a soft cloth, he noticed a strange warmth coming from the metal. Then the lamp began to vibrate. "What the—" John nearly dropped it as purple smoke started pouring from the spout. The smoke filled the room, swirling around like a small tornado. John backed away until he hit the wall. The smoke gathered in the center of his living room and then began to take shape. A woman appeared in the smoke. She had copper-colored skin and long, dark hair that seemed to float around her as if underwater. Her eyes were bright and seemed to glow with an inner light. She wore flowing clothes that looked both ancient and somehow not from this world. "After 300 years I am free," she said, her voice musical but with a strange echo. She stretched her arms and looked around the small apartment with curiosity. Then her eyes landed on John. "You have awakened me from my slumber," she said. "I am Layla, and I am bound to grant you 3 wishes." John stared at her, his mouth open. The cloth fell from his hand to the floor. "This can't be happening," he whispered. Layla raised an eyebrow. "I assure you it is very real. Now what is your first wish, Master?" Image description for Leonardo AI. A stunned archaeologist in a small, cluttered apartment stands pressed against the wall as purple smoke swirls in the room. From the smoke emerges a beautiful genie with copper skin and flowing dark hair. On the table sits an ancient brass lamp. Moonlight streams through the window, illuminating the scene with a mysterious glow. John blinked several times and rubbed his eyes. The woman, or Genie, still stood in his living room looking at him with a mix of amusement and impatience. "This isn't possible," John said. "Genies aren't real. This must be some kind of hallucination from working too hard." Layla sighed. "I assure you I am quite real." She moved her hand in a circular motion and John's dirty coffee mug floated up from the table. It spun in the air before gently setting back down. Would you like more proof? John stepped forward cautiously. If you're really a genie, then you were trapped in that lamp? For how long? 300 years, as I said. Layla's eyes darkened. My last master was a cruel sultan who used his final wish to lock me away until someone else found me. Time passes differently in the lamp. For me, it was both an instant and forever. And now you have to grant me 3 wishes? John asked, his academic curiosity beginning to overcome his shock. Those are the rules of the binding, Layla said. She moved around his apartment, examining his books and artifacts with interest. Most humans know what they want immediately: power, money, love. She picked up a small stone statue from his shelf. You seem different. John sat down, his legs suddenly weak. I need to think about this. A wish isn't something to rush into. Layla looked surprised. In 3,000 years of granting wishes, I've rarely met a human who didn't blurt out their first wish within minutes. 3,000 years? But you said you were trapped for 300. This last time, yes. Layla set down the statue and sat across from John. I have served many masters, been trapped and released many times. I was created to serve, to grant wishes. Her voice held no emotion, as if stating simple facts. Over the next few days, John called in sick to the university. He spent his time talking with Layla, learning about her existence. She could appear and disappear at will, but couldn't go far from whoever possessed her lamp. She had powers beyond granting wishes, but they were limited by rules she couldn't fully explain. It's like trying to describe colors to someone who has been blind since birth, she said when John pressed her for details about how her magic worked. John, in turn, showed her his work in the modern world through books and his computer. She absorbed information quickly, but many concepts confused her. Humans have changed so much yet remain the same at heart, she observed while watching a news program. Still fighting, still seeking power over others. On the 4th morning, John woke to find Layla sitting by his window, watching the sunrise. Sunlight passed through her slightly as if she wasn't fully solid. Are you a physical being? John asked. Layla turned to him. Yes and no. I can become fully physical when needed. She demonstrated by picking up a book, then letting her hand pass through the table. But my natural state is somewhere between your world and another. Are you happy? John asked suddenly. With your existence? Layla's confident expression faltered for the first time. Happiness is not relevant to my purpose. I exist to grant wishes. But when you're in the lamp, what happens to you? I cease to be, in a way. It's like a dreamless sleep. Except sometimes, with nightmares. Her eyes grew distant. The lamp is both my prison and my protection. Without it, I would fade from existence entirely. But within it, I am not truly alive. John looked at the ancient lamp sitting on his coffee table. An idea was forming in his mind. A wish unlike any Layla had likely heard before. I think, he said slowly, I'm ready to make my first wish. Layla's expression changed to the professional mask she had worn when first appearing. Then speak it clearly, Master, and it shall be granted. Image description for Leonardo AI. A mystical scene in a cluttered apartment at dawn. A semi-transparent female genie with copper skin and flowing dark clothes sits by a window as golden sunlight streams through her form. Across from her, a thoughtful man in casual clothes looks at an ancient brass lamp on a coffee table. Books about archaeology and ancient cultures are scattered around them. The atmosphere is intimate and filled with magical potential. John took a deep breath. The morning sunlight cast long shadows across his apartment floor as he faced Layla. He had spent most of the night reading old myths about genies and wishes, looking for any tricks or traps in the wording. Before I make my wish, John said, I need to understand something. Are there rules about what I can wish for? Layla nodded. I cannot bring back the dead. I cannot make someone fall in love. I cannot kill, and I cannot grant more wishes beyond the 3. She tilted her head. These limitations are part of the magical binding that created me. And if I wished for something impossible, the magic would try to fulfill it in the closest possible way, but such wishes often go wrong. Layla's eyes narrowed. Many humans have tried to outsmart the wish magic. It rarely ends well for them. John nodded. He had read about such stories, people wishing for immortality only to age forever, or unlimited money that came from tragic insurance payouts. "What happens to you after my 3 wishes are used up?" he asked. "I return to the lamp until the next person summons me." Her voice was flat, emotionless. "And you have no choice in this? No say in who your next master will be?" Layla looked confused by the question. "Of course not. I am bound to serve whoever possesses the lamp. That is my purpose." John stood up and paced across the room. The thought of Layla being passed from person to person for eternity, forced to grant wishes with no freedom of her own, bothered him deeply. The more they had talked over the past days, the more he had come to see her not as a magical servant, but as a person trapped in an endless cycle. "What if there was a way to end your servitude?" he asked. Layla laughed, but it held no humor. "In 3,000 years, no such way has been found. Many masters have tried to bend the rules, but the magic always enforces the binding. Has anyone ever wished for your freedom?" Layla went very still. "No," she said quietly. "No one has ever used a wish for my benefit. Why would they? A wish is a precious thing, and humans always want something for themselves." John walked over to the lamp and picked it up. It felt heavier than it should, as if the weight of Layla's imprisonment was somehow contained in the metal. "What would happen if someone did wish for your freedom?" he asked. "I do not know," Layla admitted. "The magic might reject such a wish as impossible, or it might work, but then I would fade from existence without the lamp to anchor me. But you don't know for certain." "No, it has never been attempted." John set the lamp down and faced Layla. His mind was made up. "Layla, I wish for you to be free from the lamp and to have complete autonomy over your powers, with no obligation to serve anyone ever again." The moment the words left his mouth, the air in the room seemed to freeze. Layla's eyes widened in shock, her lips parting but no sound coming out. For the first time since she had appeared, the confident, slightly condescending Genie seemed completely speechless. Then the lamp began to glow. Not the soft glow of polished metal in sunlight, but a bright, almost painful light that filled the room. The lamp shook violently on the table, then rose into the air. Cracks appeared in its surface, golden light spilling out from within. Layla gasped as similar cracks of light began to appear on her skin. She looked down at her hands in wonder as the magical bindings that had defined her existence for millennia began to break apart. "What's happening?" John called out, shielding his eyes from the intensifying light. "The magic," Layla whispered. "It's changing me." The lamp suddenly exploded in a burst of golden light, the pieces dissolving into sparkling dust that swirled around Layla like a tornado. Her form became almost transparent, then solidified again as the magical dust was absorbed into her being. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, everything stopped. The light faded. The room was quiet. Layla stood in the center of John's apartment, looking more solid and real than before. Tears streamed down her face. "I'm free," she said in disbelief. "After 3,000 years, I am free." Image description for Leonardo AI. A magical transformation scene in a small apartment. A female, Genie with copper skin, hovers slightly above the floor, her body illuminated by cracks of golden light breaking through her skin. An ancient lamp floats in midair, shattering into particles of golden dust that swirl around her. A man stands nearby, one arm raised to shield his eyes from the intense light, his face showing amazement and hope. Morning sunlight streams through a window, mixing with the magical energy filling the room. The morning sun was high in the sky now, streaming through John's apartment windows. Layla stood in the same spot, looking at her hands in wonder. The lamp was gone, completely dissolved into the golden dust that had been absorbed into her body. "Are you okay?" John asked, stepping closer. Layla looked up at him, her eyes filled with confusion and amazement. "I feel different." She reached out and touched the wall. More real, more present. She walked to the window and placed her hand in the sunlight. "I can feel the warmth." She turned to John with a smile that transformed her face. "I can truly feel it." John smiled back, relieved that his wish hadn't caused her to disappear. "So you're free? Completely free?" "Yes," Layla said, but her smile faded. "But I don't understand. Why would you use your wish this way? You could have asked for anything. Wealth, power, knowledge." John shrugged. It didn't seem right, keeping someone trapped just to serve my wants. Layla paced around the room, her movements more natural now, less like she was floating. "No one has ever." She stopped and looked directly at John. "In 3,000 years, every master has used their wishes for themselves. Every single one." "Well, I'm not like them," John said simply. Layla continued to explore the apartment, touching everything, experiencing the physical world in a new way. But as the hours passed, a new problem became clear. "What do I do now?" she asked that evening, as they sat in John's small kitchen. John had made dinner and Layla had discovered she could now eat and taste food. She was fascinated by the simple pasta dish he had prepared. "What do you mean?" John asked. "My entire existence was about granting wishes," Layla explained. "I was created for that purpose. Without it..." She gestured helplessly. "Who am I? What is my purpose now?" John hadn't considered this. In his desire to free her, he hadn't thought about what freedom would mean for someone who had only known servitude for thousands of years. "You get to decide that for yourself," he said. "That's what freedom is." Layla looked troubled. "I don't know how to do that." The next few days were difficult. Layla would sometimes sit for hours, staring at nothing. Other times she would use her magic in small ways just to test if she still could, making objects float or changing the color of things. "My powers are still here," she told John, "but they feel different. More mine." She struggled with making decisions. Even simple choices like what to eat or what to watch on TV seemed to overwhelm her. "For thousands of years I only acted on commands," she explained. "The idea that I can do whatever I want is..." "Scary," John suggested. "Yes," she admitted, "and wonderful, and confusing." One morning, John found Layla looking at his archaeology books. "These places," she said, pointing to pictures of ancient ruins. "I've been to many of them, but I've never really seen them. I was always focused on my masters, on their wishes." "We could visit some," John suggested. "I mean, if you want to. You're free to go anywhere now." Layla looked up, her eyes bright. "Could we? Could I see the world as myself, not as someone's servant?" "Of course," John said. "Although..." He looked around his small apartment. "We have another problem. You need a place to stay, clothes, documents. The modern world requires those things." Layla frowned. "I hadn't thought of that. In the past I simply appeared when needed, and returned to the lamp otherwise." "You could stay here for now," John offered. "Until you figure things out." "Are you sure you've already given up one of your wishes for me?" John smiled. "What are friends for?" Layla tilted her head. "Friends?" She tested the word. "I've never had a friend before. Masters, yes, but never a friend." "Well, you have one now," John said, "and we'll figure this out together." For the first time since becoming free, Layla looked truly hopeful. "Together," she repeated. "I think I would like that." Image description for Leonardo AI. An intimate evening scene in a small apartment kitchen. A woman with copper skin and dark hair sits at a table looking with wonder at a simple plate of pasta, experiencing food for the first time. Across from her, a kind-looking man watches with a gentle smile, The kitchen is bathed in warm yellow light from a simple overhead lamp. Through a nearby window, the last colors of sunset are visible. The woman's fingertips glow faintly with remnants of magical energy, and where the light hits her skin, it seems to shimmer slightly, hinting at her otherworldly nature. 2 weeks passed. John returned to work at the university, explaining to his colleagues that Layla was a visiting scholar from overseas who needed a place to stay. Her extensive knowledge of ancient languages and cultures made the story believable. The university library became Layla's favorite place. She spent hours there, reading everything she could find about the modern world. "The internet is amazing," she told John one evening as she used his laptop. "Humans have created a way to share knowledge across the entire world." John watched her with amusement. "Most people use it to watch cat videos." Layla smiled, still getting used to humor. She was wearing normal clothes now, jeans and a simple blue sweater that John had helped her buy. She looked almost human, except for the slight glow in her eyes when she was excited. "I've been thinking," she said, closing the laptop. "I want to help you with your work." "My archaeology work?" John asked, surprised. "Yes. I've seen many of these civilizations firsthand. I know their languages, their customs, things that aren't in your books." John considered this. "That would first incredible, but how would I explain how you know these things?" Layla frowned. "I hadn't thought of that. I can't exactly tell people I was there." "We'll figure something out," John assured her. "Maybe say you studied some rare private collection." The next day, John brought Layla to his office at the university. He was working on translating some ancient tablets found at the same dig site where he had discovered the lamp. "These markings," John explained, pointing to symbols on his computer screen. "We think they're a form of early writing, but no one can read them." Layla leaned closer. "It's a merchant language," she said without hesitation, "used by traders between kingdoms. It's a mix of 3 different languages." She began translating the symbols, explaining their meanings. John stared at her in amazement. "This could change our understanding of ancient trade routes." Layla smiled. "This particular tablet is just a receipt for olive oil and spices. But yes, the language itself is significant." As they worked, a woman knocked on John's office door. It was Dr. Patricia Green, the department head. "John, "Oh, hello," she said, noticing Layla. "Dr. Green, this is Layla," John said. "The visiting scholar I mentioned." Dr. Green shook Layla's hand. "John told me you have expertise in ancient languages. Where did you study?" Layla hesitated only briefly. "My education was unconventional. Private tutors, mostly." "Well, whatever your background, we're glad to have you here," Dr. Green said. "John, the university is hosting a special exhibit next week. Ancient artifacts from private collections. I'd like you and your guest to attend the opening." After she left, John looked at Layla with concern. "Are you okay with that? Being around lots of people?" "I think so," Layla said. "I need to learn to interact with humans, other than you, that is." Over the following days, they fell into a routine. Mornings at the university working on translations, afternoons exploring the city with John showing Layla modern life. She was fascinated by simple things: ice cream, movies, music. One evening they walked through a park as the sun set. Layla stopped to watch children playing. "They're so free," she said softly. "They don't yet know how rare that is." John looked at her profile in the fading light. "Are you happy with your freedom?" Layla considered the question seriously. "I'm learning what happiness is. Before, I existed. Now I live." She turned to him. "Yes, I think I am happy. Confused sometimes. Overwhelmed often, but happy." "Good," John said simply. "And you?" Layla asked. "Do you regret using your wish this way?" John shook his head. Not for a second. As they walked, neither noticed a man watching them from across the park, a man who had been following them for days, his eyes fixed on Layla with intense interest. Vincent. Clark lowered his binoculars and made a note in a small book. After decades of searching for proof of magical beings, he had finally found one walking freely in the world, and he wasn't about to let her get away. Image description for Leonardo AI. A sunset scene in a city park. A woman with copper-toned skin and dark hair wearing modern clothes, jeans and a blue sweater, stands beside a man, both watching children play on a playground. The woman's eyes have a subtle otherworldly glow as golden sunset light touches her face. In the distant background, partially hidden behind trees, a man in a dark coat observes them through binoculars, his expression intense and calculating. The scene combines warmth and foreboding, with long shadows stretching across the grass. The university hall was filled with people dressed in formal clothes. Glass cases displayed ancient artifacts from around the world. John wore a simple suit, while Layla had chosen a dark blue dress that made her copper skin glow. "Are you nervous?" John asked as they entered. "A little," Layla admitted. "I've never been around so many humans as myself." They moved through the exhibit, stopping at each display. Layla provided quiet insights about artifacts that even the information cards got wrong. John was amazed at her knowledge. "Professor Miller," a deep voice called. John turned to see a tall man with silver hair approaching. He wore an expensive suit and carried a cane with a silver handle. "I don't believe we've met," John said. "Vincent Clark," the man said, extending his hand. "I'm a collector of rare artifacts. I've read your papers on Middle Eastern excavations. Brilliant work." "Thank you," John said, surprised by the praise. Vincent's eyes moved to Layla. "And who is your lovely companion?" "This is Layla," John said. "She's a visiting scholar helping with translations." Vincent took Layla's hand and bowed slightly. "Enchanted," he said, holding her hand longer than necessary. "Your eyes are remarkable." Layla gently pulled her hand away. "Something about..." This man made her uncomfortable. "What artifacts do you collect, Mr. Clark?" she asked. "Call me Vincent, please. I collect items with unusual histories, items some might call magical." His eyes never left Layla's face. Objects that might grant wishes, for example. John felt a chill. The way Vincent emphasized the word wishes wasn't casual. "Myths and legends are fascinating," John said carefully, "but most magical artifacts are just stories." Vincent smiled. "Are they? I find that reality often surprises us." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, ancient-looking coin. "Like this coin. It's said to reveal the true nature of magical beings." As he held it up, the coin began to glow slightly. At the same moment, Layla gasped and stepped back. Her skin briefly shimmered with the same golden light that had appeared when John's wish freed her. Vincent's eyes widened. "Extraordinary," he whispered. John quickly moved between them. "Layla isn't feeling well. We should go." "Of course," Vincent said, putting the coin away. "But we must talk again, Professor Miller. I have a proposal that might interest you both." As they hurried from the hall, Layla was shaking. "That coin," she whispered. "It's a detection artifact, from the same time period as my lamp." "He knows what you are," John said, looking back to make sure they weren't followed. "Yes. And he's dangerous." Layla's eyes were filled with fear. "I could sense his intent. He doesn't just want to study magical beings, he wants to control them." Back at John's apartment, they argued about what to do. "We should leave the city," John said. "I can take a sabbatical." "No," Layla shook her head. "Running won't help. Men like Vincent are persistent, and now that I'm free from the lamp, I'm vulnerable to certain binding spells." "Binding spells?" "Magic that can trap me, control me." Layla paced the room. "The lamp protected me from those. It was a prison, but also a shield." John ran his hands through his hair in frustration. "There must be something we can do." "There is," Layla said. "I need to learn to defend myself. I have power, but I've only ever used it to grant wishes. I need to learn to use it differently." Over. The next few days, Layla practiced using her magic in new ways. She could create shields of energy, move objects, even become invisible for short periods. but each use of power drained her. "I'm still adjusting to freedom," she explained. "My magic needs time to recover." John helped by researching protection symbols from various cultures. As an archaeologist, he had access to texts about ancient magical defenses. One morning, John's office phone rang. It was Dr. Green. "John, there's a Mr. Clark here. He's offering a large donation to fund your research, but he insists on meeting with you and your associate first." John's stomach tightened. "Tell him we're busy." He's quite persistent. He's already speaking with the university president. After hanging up, John called Layla, who was at his apartment. "Vincent is at the university," he warned. "Don't leave the apartment. I'll be home soon." But when he arrived home 20 minutes later, the door was open. Inside, furniture was overturned. Signs of a struggle were everywhere. Layla was gone. On the table was a note. "I have what you freed. Come alone to the address below if you want to see her again. Bring the other 2 wishes you still possess." Image description for Leonardo AI. A tense scene at an elegant museum exhibition. A silver-haired man in an expensive suit holds up a glowing ancient coin toward a woman in a blue dress with copper skin. Her body is beginning to shimmer with subtle golden light in response to the coin. A concerned man in a simple suit steps, protectively between them. In the background, glass display cases with ancient artifacts line the walls. The lighting is dramatic with shadows creating an atmosphere of danger and supernatural revelation. Other guests are blurred in. John stared at the note in his hands, his heart racing. The address was for an old warehouse by the river. He knew he should call the police, but what would he tell them? That a magical being had been kidnapped? Instead, he called Dr. Ellen Wright, a fellow archaeologist who specialized in ancient religions and magic. "Ellen, I need your help," John said when she answered. "It's an emergency." 30 minutes later, Ellen arrived at John's apartment. She was a serious woman with short gray hair and kind eyes. John had worked with her on several digs and trusted her completely. "What happened here?" she asked, looking at the mess. John took a deep breath. "I'm going to tell you something crazy and I need you to believe me." He told her everything, finding the lamp, Layla, the wish, and Vincent. Ellen listened without interrupting, her expression growing more serious. "I've studied Vincent Clark," she said when John finished. "He collects items rumored to have magical properties. Most collectors are just enthusiasts, but Clark," she shook her head. "There are stories about him. People who crossed him disappeared. He took Layla," John said. "And he wants my other 2 wishes. He doesn't understand that Layla is free now. She doesn't grant wishes anymore." "But does he know that?" Ellen asked. "This could work in our favor." They formed a plan. Ellen had ancient texts that described binding spells like the ones Layla had mentioned. If Vincent was using one, there might be a way to break it. These binding symbols would need to be placed in a circle around her, Ellen explained, showing John a book with strange markings. "If we can disrupt the circle, the spell breaks." John gathered supplies, salt, chalk, and a mixture of herbs that Ellen said could weaken magical bindings. He also took the small piece of the lamp that hadn't dissolved, a fragment of the handle, that he had found days after Layla's transformation. "This still has a connection to her," he said, putting it in his pocket. As night fell, they drove to the warehouse. It was dark and seemed abandoned, but a faint light showed through one dirty window. "I'll go in alone," John said. "He's expecting just me." "I'll find another way in," Ellen replied. "Give me 15 minutes, then go through the front door." John waited, checking his watch repeatedly. When 15 minutes passed, he approached the warehouse door and knocked. "Enter," Vincent's voice called from inside. John pushed the door open. The warehouse was mostly empty except for a large circle drawn on the floor. Strange symbols marked the circle's edge, similar to the ones in Ellen's book. In the center stood Layla. She looked weak, her normally bright eyes dull. Golden chains of light bound her arms and legs to the floor. Vincent stood nearby, the small coin from the exhibition now hanging from a chain around his neck. "John," Layla whispered. "Ah, Professor Miller," Vincent said. "Thank you for coming." I trust you brought what I asked for? John stepped forward, carefully. I want to see that Layla is okay. She's perfectly fine, Vincent said. Just a bit restrained. These binding spells are quite effective on her kind. What do you want? John asked, trying to stall while searching for Ellen. It's simple, Vincent said. I've spent my life collecting magical artifacts but never found anything like her. A real, living, magical being. He gestured to Layla. With her power and my knowledge, imagine what we could accomplish. She's not a thing to be collected, John said angrily. She's a person. Vincent laughed. She's a genie, created to serve. You wasted your first wish on some misguided idea of freedom, but the other two wishes still exist. He held up an ancient scroll. According to this text, wishes can be transferred under certain conditions. John spotted Ellen moving silently. Behind some crates, she was working her way around the edge of the room, getting closer to the circle. So you want me to give you my wishes? John asked, continuing to distract Vincent. Precisely, Vincent said, and in return I won't lock her back in a lamp for eternity. A fair trade, don't you think? John's hand closed around the lamp fragment in his pocket. He felt it growing warm, responding to Layla's presence. What if I told you, John said slowly, that I still have one more thing from the lamp? He pulled out the fragment. It began to glow brightly and Layla's eyes widened in recognition. John, she called out, the second wish. In that moment, John understood. Even with Layla free, their magical connection remained. He still had two wishes. Vincent lunged toward John. No! I wish, John shouted, for all binding spells in this building to be permanently nullified. Image description for Leonardo AI. A dramatic confrontation in a dimly lit, abandoned warehouse. At the center, a weakened female figure with copper skin stands trapped within a glowing magical circle etched with ancient symbols. Golden chains of light bind her arms and legs. A silver-haired man in dark clothing reaches desperately toward a younger man who holds up a glowing fragment of brass that illuminates the scene with intense, golden light. In the shadows behind them, partially hidden, an older woman with short, gray hair carefully approaches the edge of the magical circle. Moonlight streams through dirty windows, creating long shadows across the concrete floor. The air in the warehouse crackled with energy. The magical circle around Layla began to dissolve, the glowing symbols fading one by one. The golden chains, holding her, vanished in a burst of sparks. Vincent fell to his knees, clutching his head. No, this isn't possible! Layla stood up, power flowing through her again. She looked at John with a mixture of relief and gratitude. Behind the crates, Ellen emerged, smiling. It worked, Ellen said. Vincent tried to escape, but Layla raised her hand. The warehouse doors sealed shut with a loud slam. You kidnapped me, she said, walking toward him. You wanted to make me your slave. Vincent backed away. I just wanted to study you, to understand the magic. By controlling me? Layla's eyes glowed dangerously. By binding me? John stepped forward. Layla, don't hurt him. You're not that person. Layla paused, looking at John. The glow in her eyes softened. You're right, she said. She turned back to Vincent. But he needs to forget about magic, about me. She touched Vincent's forehead gently. His eyes went blank for a moment, then he blinked in confusion. Where am I? Vincent asked, looking around. How did I get here? You were leaving, Layla said softly. And you won't remember any of this. Vincent walked out of the warehouse in a daze. They heard his car start and drive away. Ellen looked impressed. Memory modification? That's advanced magic. I'm learning, Layla said. She turned to John. How? Did you know you still had wishes? John held up the lamp fragment. When I touched this, I felt the connection. The wishes weren't part of your servitude. They were part of our first meeting. Layla took the fragment, examining it. One wish left, she said quietly. 6 months passed. John and Layla had settled into a comfortable life. She worked at the university as his research partner, her insights revolutionizing their understanding of ancient civilizations. Their latest paper on lost languages had made international news, though no one knew the real source of Layla's knowledge. They had also grown closer. What started as friendship had developed into something deeper. Though neither had spoken about it directly one evening, they walked through the same park where they had first talked about freedom. The sunset painted the sky in shades of gold and purple. "Do you ever miss it?" John asked. "The certainty of your old life?" Layla shook her head. "Never. Freedom is complicated, but it's worth it." She paused. "Though sometimes I worry." "About what?" "That I'm here because I feel I owe you. That my feelings might not be real." John stopped walking. "Layla, you don't owe me anything." "I know that logically," she said, "but emotionally," she looked away. "How can I be sure what I feel is genuine choice and not gratitude?" John was quiet for a moment. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out the lamp fragment. It still glowed faintly when near Layla. "I have an idea," he said. "But it's a big decision." Layla looked at the fragment. "Your last wish?" "Yes." John took a deep breath. "I wish for you to forget I ever freed you or did anything for you, so that whatever happens between us from this moment forward will be your completely free choice." Layla's eyes widened. "John, wait." But the magic was already working. The fragment glowed brilliantly, then crumbled to dust. A wave of golden light washed over Layla. She blinked, looking confused for a moment. Then her expression cleared. She looked at John as if seeing him for the first time, yet somehow still knowing him. "John," she said softly, I remember everything except, but why would you?" Understanding dawned in her eyes. Without the memory of being freed by him, without the weight of gratitude, she could see her feelings clearly. "You gave up your last wish," she whispered, "so I could choose freely." John nodded, suddenly nervous. "Whatever you decide, wherever you go from here, it's your choice. Completely yours." Layla stepped closer to him. "My choice," she repeated. Then she smiled. A radiant, genuine smile. "I choose you, John Miller. Not because I owe you, not because you saved me, but because I love you." She kissed him as the last rays of sunset faded. Around them, the park lights began to come on, illuminating a new beginning built on free will and love. Ellen, who had been feeding ducks nearby, smiled and walked away quietly. Some magic, she thought, had nothing to do with spells or wishes. It was simply two people choosing each other. Layla pulled back from the kiss, her eyes bright with tears. "I'm free," she. "And